In today's world, nobody is perfect. When careers, money, and history is on the line, mistakes have to be avoided at all costs. In America's biggest game, football, people rely on mistakes to be fixed and a fair game to be played. However, the NFL today is nothing like it was 30 to 40 years ago. In 1976, the NFL experimented with instant replay in order to fix these mistakes. A test was conducted in one preseason game during the 76 season. After the test, the NFL realized that this was a great thing and brought back good results. It wasn't until 1978 when the NFL began experimenting again with instant replay. However, this time around, the results were, quote, lackluster. The experiment was ran through 7 different preseason games. After the experiment was finished, the NFL realized that they did not have enough cameras in order to pull this off. Another complaint was that the reviewing took way too long and slowed down the pace of the games. Nick Scourge, who was a supervisor of the officiating for the NFL, said electronically, "I don't know if we are advanced enough yet." The league ruled that the system was too ineffective and too costly to implement. Despite failing in 1978, the NFL reintroduced instant replay again in 1985. In this test, they experimented with 8 preseason games in this test. The NFL found that they now had the power and the funds to make this work. The NFL allowed owners to vote and use this season for the 85 playoffs. However, owners voted against this since it wasn't allowed in the regular season. During this experiment, an official would monitor the game from a booth and could only reverse calls if there was an indisputable visual evidence. After the conclusion of the 1985 season, NFL owners were given another chance to vote for the system in 1986. The NFL owners voted 23 to 4 to 1, with one person abstaining, allowing limited use of instant replay. With this system in place, it could only be used for plays of possessions, things like a fumble, an interception, reception, or ineligible players. It could also be used for players governed by sidelines, goal lines, or the line of scrimmage. And on top of this, it could also be used for easily detectable infractions on replay, such as too many people on the field. However, this system was only allowed for this season and would have to be voted on again for next season. The Dallas Cowboys owner at the time, Tex Schramm, was skeptical of this new system and said, "Some feel we are taking the human element out of the game and moving it to a booth in the press box." During the 1986 season, there was an average of 1.6 reviews per game, and about 10% of the total 374 calls were reversed. When it came time to vote for the system again in 1987, the system barely reached the minimum required votes for implementation. The vote was in favor 21 to 7 for the system. Along with the implementation of this system, the NFL added more improvements to its own system. Instead of reviewing games on a 9-inch monitor, it was switched to 12-inch monitors. Midway through the season, the system came into heavy criticism when a missed call costed the Chiefs a win. A touchdown was thrown in the corner of the end zone, and the call was supposed to be incomplete. However, the referee on the field heard complete and ruled it as a touchdown incorrectly. The NFL was upset and embarrassed by this and switched to headsets and pagers. On top of this, they also switched the terminology they used to either be confirmed or reverse instead of complete or incomplete. The instant replay stuck around until 1992. In the 1992 season, owners voted against the system returning because the system still missed calls as well as took up too much of the game time. It wasn't until 1996 when the system returned after being experimented in 10 different preseason games. With this new system, coaches can now challenge the rulings on the field in the same 3 categories as before. They could only challenge 3 calls per half, but at the cost of a timeout for each one. On top of this, the NFL allowed referees to review the calls and only had 90 seconds to review the call in total. The system worked well, but the rules for it caused it to not return in 1997 or 1998. Owners did not like that you lost a timeout upon winning a challenge. However, in 1998, controversy struck the NFL. The replay system was not in effect and costed the Seattle Seahawks a win against the New York Jets. If Seattle won this game and the rest of their games played out how they did, they would have made the wild card. The result was that they lost and did not make it to the postseason, as well as the Seahawks coaching staff was fired.
Raised his hands and signaled touchdown. They did not have the gaps filled in the middle. Vinny Testaverde had a hole straight up the chute. He almost fumbled. Oh! Yeah, He didn't get across.
The ball did not cross the plane. From that angle, it looked like it did not cross the plane. Almost fumbled the snap. Remember, the ball has to cross the plane, not his head, not his shoulders.
He didn't get it.
He did not.
That's a second missed touchdown by this crew today. Martin had a touchdown earlier in the game over the pylon. They didn't rule it a touchdown. And they called that one a touchdown when it was not a touchdown.
Let's watch this one right here. He's straight up the middle, almost bobbles it. There's the contact. The ball has to cross. You can see it even for this.
This was a huge mistake which costed the Seahawks a chance to go to the playoffs. In 1999, NFL owners voted on the system to return, and the vote was in favor of bringing back the system. This new system allowed coaches to only have 2 challenges instead of the 3. Coaches would also lose their timeout if they were unsuccessful. On top of this, officials would review calls in the last 2 minutes of the half, regardless of a challenge. In 1999, the system has been voted on each year and brought back. In 2004, the NFL allowed owners to vote in extending the system for 5 more years until 2009. The vote was in favor of the system on a 30-2 vote. The NFL still continues to update their system and the rules for it. They now allowed coaches who had 2 successful challenges to earn a 3rd one. The system was voted on in 2007 to make this a permanent element in the NFL. Along with adding this permanent addition to the NFL, in 2007 it also added HD review systems and went away from the standard definition TVs they were using. Officials now saw the game 5 times more sharper than before. The downside to this was that it costed $300,000 to install at each stadium. Beginning in 2014, the NFL now had a headquarters in New York that would gather the best angles and prepare them to send to officials. If there was ever a questionable call or catch, the headquarters in New York would begin gathering the angles before the challenge and get them ready for the officials to view.
Sometimes enraged by what we've seen.
That should have been a penalty. And Sean Payton is justifiably upset.
And yes, sometimes the replay helps change a call.
The ball hit the ground and it is an incomplete pass.
But first, a producer like Galvin has to spot the right angle.
Who's got the sack? I want the sack.
He does have help.
Slash is nice. Slash is nice.
Tonight, 36 technicians will be watching and controlling all those camera angles using a kind of high-tech DVR.
Okay, touchdown.
I might slow it down like that to show that he got both feet in.
So every time something moves in slow motion tonight, remember how fast it's going for the guy in front of all those monitors.
Brady still has it. Up top he goes. He's intercepted.
Who's got the pick? Does Leopard have it?
Yes.
Okay.
She does a nice look too, actually.
Leopard!
Talk about team game. This is as much of a team almost as the guys on the field. Ken, that's perfect, dude. That's absolutely perfect.
This sped the process up even more as well as reduced the length of game times. In 2017, final decisions for replays now come from a senior member of the officiating department for the NFL. That doesn't mean referees don't make the calls, but if a call is too close, it goes to a person in New York to make the call. Referees now use handheld Microsoft Surface tablets as well. The NFL continues to improve on this system each year. The most recent change in the system was added for the 2019 season. This new rule allowed pass interference calls to be reviewable. The NFL continues to improve every day on the system, and as technology becomes more and more advanced, so does the accuracy of this system. Human error is a part of everything we do, but the NFL is doing its part in making sure the games are as fair and as competitive as possible.